Welcome to Z Multimedia Online. Don't forget to follow us on all our socials on TikTok at Z Multimedia, LinkedIn at Z Multimedia, YouTube, ZTV, IDX, and Facebook at ZFMGH. Do enjoy this video.
Business Breakfast.
This is Business Breakfast.
This is Business Breakfast. I'm listening to the Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM. This is Business Breakfast.
This is Business Breakfast.
This is Business Breakfast. I'm listening to the Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM.
I love this song so much by Ochami Kwame. Ochami Kwame, wherever you are, God bless you for this tune. I've been speaking about it. Very powerful song, very good lyrics, sending a very strong message. You know, we live in a world where people try to pull others down. When people are excelling, we want to drag them. You know, today on Twitter or X, everybody seems to be dragging people down and all of that. When people are excelling, you're finding a way to find fault and all of that. But this song sends a very powerful message. Clap for others. When somebody wins, you win. When you win, other people, when we all win, we all win. That's the focus. And we ought to be clapping for each other. Which I'm becoming very powerful. And I'm very proud to say that I'm the first morning show host to play this song. This song has never been played anywhere before. And so, yes, if you are listening to it, you heard it here first. Only on Z101.9 FM. All right. Anyway, so we're getting into our roundtable discussion this morning. My guest is already seated, and today we're talking about something that is often misunderstood, but very real. We're talking about bipolar disorder. Now, they say that it's not just about mood swings. It's not something to joke about. For many people, it's a daily reality that affects their emotions, their relationships, and overall well-being. And so today we want to break the silence, and our topic is understanding bipolar disorder, breaking the silence on mood swings and health and mental health. And I'm joined by Stanislaus Nyaku. He is a mental health advocate, and he's here to help us unpack this. Stan, Charlie, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, my brother?
I'm fine. How are you doing too?
Yeah, I'm well. You're looking fresh.
You're looking fresher.
No, that's not true. You're looking very fresh.
Oh, thank you very much.
You have to show us the way.
And then next week is my birthday, so maybe.
Oh, wow. Next week Friday?
Birthday greets in advance.
Next week Friday?
Next week Friday, yeah.
Wow, exactly a week from now. Then we should have put this conversation there so we can celebrate you proper. But anyway, thanks so much for coming, and happy birthday to you in advance.
No, thank you very much, and thanks for having me.
Anytime. All right, so let's get into our conversation this morning. We're talking about bipolar disorder. Many people hear of bipolar, but they don't know exactly what it is. We even throw the word around sometimes, and I wonder why we do that. But just for starters, when people say bipolar disorder, what is it about?
Okay,
what are we really talking about?
I want to start with what it is not. One of the greatest misconceptions about bipolar, which touches my heart so much. When we call bipolar disorder mood swings, yeah, that is not a good look. That is a downgrade to like the 100th exponential. It's like mood swings raised to the power 100 is getting an idea, fair idea of what bipolar is.
No, let me get it well.
Yeah.
So mood swings is not as serious as bipolar.
No.
So
bipolar and mood swings. Mood swings, two different things. So let me just break that one down. When we say mood swings, we are looking at fluctuation in moods for maybe hours to a day maximum.
Okay.
So you are extremely happy between maybe some hours, maybe a little beyond the normal threshold. Then you come back to normal mood.
What is a normal threshold?
A normal threshold. So we have what we call display rules. Display rules are how society agrees that behavior or emotion should be displayed or should be regulated.
Okay.
So if, let's say, we are watching a football match and then Barcelona should score a goal, everybody's here, all the Barca fans are happy. It gets to a point everybody will stop celebrating the goal. They continue the match. But when you finish the match and then they want to rub it in the face of the Madrid fans, you hear them going up and then celebrating as well. But we all go and sleep and wake up. And if somebody is extremely excited, maybe he'll continue to the morning and then that is the joy. Then say somebody loses a bet in that same process, opposite side of the conversation, the person is quite sad. and the person remembers the match the next one, the person is still high and hurt about it. But before midday, everything sets and everything resets, and then we are going into it. So that is a normal mood swing.
Okay.
Now let's take an example of a guy who hasn't slept in 4 days, who is very hyper.
Right.
When I say hyper, he's elated. His mood is he's all over the place. And then he comes to you and tells you, Nee, I'm very fast. I'm very sharp today. Like, I can go on and on and on. And then he starts having a conversation with you, and then he's saying all manner of things, and you are struggling to get him. But he's talking. To him, it feels perfect. But you are seeing that, there's something wrong with this guy. Yeah. So that is an idea of what bipolar looks like.
Okay.
At the extreme phase. Now, the person who has won a football bet or has seen his team score a goal and is celebrating their joys will not go without sleep for 4 days. Right. So that is where I see the mood swing does not do justice to bipolar disorder. Yeah. And then when you enter the depressive phase, the other side, the other extreme, you realize that the person, for a depressive episode, you have to be down for 2 weeks. The low of the mood swing does not last even 2 days. So that is where we draw the line, and then we set the ball rolling. So now, what then is bipolar disorder? It is a chronic, recurrent major psychiatric disorder characterized by episodic pathological disturbances in mood, energy, and behavior, cycling between abnormally elevated or irritable mood, and then sometimes depressed moods.
That's a lot of English.
It's a lot of English. Simply put, we are saying that it is a disorder, a deviation from normal behavior that affects how you think, how you act in society. And in your attempt to survive, you are shifting between very high moods for a period of time, and then you are coming down into some low moods, plus or minus. So that is your cycle. And as I've explained earlier, it is not like the mood swings we talk about. Right. So you are not doing a day and a half or two. You are going 4 days, you are going 7 days, you are going 2 weeks of depressed mood, etc., etc. Now, there are categorizations of the bipolar disorder. So we may know that, there's bipolar disorder, and so everybody going through bipolar everybody we encounter on the streets, looking at the symptoms we are talking about, may have bipolar disorder. But there are actually, I think there are 5 in the category. But for the purpose of this conversation, we'll reduce it to 3. Maybe we'll mention the other 2 in passing. But we have bipolar 1 disorder, bipolar 2, and then we have cyclothymia. So I'll explain them briefly, and then we'll take it from there. So in bipolar 1 disorder, the person or whoever is going to be diagnosed or labeled as someone with bipolar 1 should have at least 7 days of elated or irritable mood. So your mood should be high, be in that manic state for about a week, continuous.
Right.
Yeah. And you should be there continuously for 1 week. That is bipolar 1. You may have or not have some depressive phases in the picture. When we move to bipolar 2, we are looking at having the same mood, but for maybe 4 days continuous. And then when we go to cyclothymia, we are rotating between the high moods and the lower moods to an extent. So adding a little more background to it, there are some symptoms we look out for that will form the full diagnostic criteria for bipolar. And then the major symptoms we look at are captured with the mnemonic dig fast. So D will stand for disruptibility or distractibility. So a person who is going to end up being labeled as someone with bipolar disorder is easily distracted. They cannot maintain attention for a long time. So somebody may start with saying, you know what, I want to build a house for maybe Ni. And then as he is putting in logistics to build a house for Ni, he says he wants to buy watches for maybe Solomon. And you are wondering, he's not finished the first assignment and he's another stimulus enters the picture and he wants to do something for that person. So they are easily distracted, and that is the distractibility part. The second one is impulsivity. They are highly impulsive, and this impulsivity leads them to doing some very crazy things. For example, somebody may feel like he wants to climb an electric pole, like climb the transformer and then swing from one end to another. Not because he wants to, but that is what we are talking about. That's the impulsivity. That is what it can do. When somebody is manic like that and the impulsivity comes in, these are some of the things they encounter on their way. We move to the gene. The gene stands for grandiosity. So in grandiosity, they feel like they have some powers. They have some. So somebody can tell you, I'm on a mission from God. The person is not a prophet, but in that same manic phase, the person tells you, I'm on a mission from God. I've come to save the world. For example, with this Iran, Israel, and US conflict going on, he tells you, you know what? I'm the chosen one. I just have to show up in Iran and all these things will go. I'll end this war in 2 minutes. Like, the person is having a conversation with you, serious and
this
all.
one.
So to you can see that this one, there is something wrong. But to the person, no, like, I have a plan. You know what? I have my F-35 fighter jets right by. When I go down, my fighter jet is waiting for me. That is grandiosity.
Okay.
Now, this grandiosity may be reduced or can be reduced into what we call psychosis, not being in touch with reality. So that's the gym part. Now we move to the FAST, F-A-S-T. So the F is for flight of ideas.
Okay.
Now, because of the disruptibility, I mentioned something like that. The person is, there are so many things happening in the person's head, right? The person is talking, like, there's so many thoughts in the person's head the person wants to talk to you about. So they start one conversation, jump to another. Before you can see a jack, they've had 100 different conversations with you. And they can still go on.
Continue.
Yeah. That is the F part. When we move to A, A has to do with activity. They have a lot of energy to do so many things as well.
Right.
S will do with sleep. Now, sleep will differ. If you are looking at the manic phase, they do less sleep. If you're looking at the depressive phase, they do more sleep. So somebody may be sleeping for 18 to 24 hours in the depressive phase. In the manic phase, the person will be sleeping for 2 hours or 4 hours for like 3 weeks, for like maybe 3 days or 4 days. Or they may not sleep at all. So that's the S part. And the T is the talkative nature. So there's 7 symptoms I've mentioned. At least 4 of them should be present.
Okay. Before anybody can
to be able to be classified as bipolar 1. So aside the elated mood and then the elated or irritable mood, you should have about 3 extra symptoms to finally complete the diagnostic criteria for bipolar 1 disorder. Now, when you go to bipolar 2, you may get about 3 of them. Now, another question that would arise just before it comes in is, what would be the difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2, right? So, there is something called mania. Mania is the manic phase and its extreme form.
All right.
And then we have hypomania. So, hypo means has toned down a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so that is just by way of
a lot of technical stuff
there.
Oh, don't worry. Just
so let me just
land
and then we
can break it down for other people.
Right. So hypomania would be so from readings and everything, it's just a way of toning it down a bit to say that okay, you don't meet the bipolar 1 cutoff. So let's put you under hypomania. Okay. That is in no way saying that one is more extreme to the other or one is more dangerous to the other. Both of them are equally dangerous. Okay, so hypomania, I would say you can get about 3 of the symptoms. All right. Now, the main difference between the two would have to do with there's hospitalization bit. Okay. So as we are talking, bipolar is a very serious deal. That is why I started by saying it is not like your normal or regular mood swings here. Bipolar can end you. Bipolar 1 can end you in the hospital easy. So if you are the top phase of the bipolar 1 disorder, you can easily end up at the emergency unit of any hospital. I see. But with hypomania, you will not get there. So that is the first distinction. Okay. You can be hospitalized for bipolar 1, but with hypomania, which is bipolar 2, you will not be hospitalized, right? That is one. And then severity, you experience the elated mood for 7 days in bipolar 1, but it's just 4 days with a hypomania or bipolar 2. And so that is in terms of severity, you may be hospitalized for 1, you may not be hospitalized for 2, and then duration 7 days for the first one, and then 4 days for the second one. So I think I'll pause here and then we can unpack a bit and then we continue.
All right. So
Yeah.
you said a lot of things. I tried to mention some of the things you talked about, and then you tried to break them down a bit better for us. You mentioned manic
Yeah.
and depressive. I think I've heard those 2 words
Okay.
before. Maybe like manic episode and depressive.
Depressive episode, yeah.
Yes. What are they?
Okay.
And also, I think you try to give like instances like that. Try to break that down. How will somebody know, or what does it look like typically?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, brings me back to my TA days at the University of Ghana teaching biological psychology, and then we encounter like these images and imageries, and then there is this analogy I like to use. I use the number line, right? So the number line drawn on a straight line, with 0 being the halfway point, the neutral point. So at point 0, we say that we are euthymic, or we have normal moods. Now, when we move to the right, that is positive, so we are adding to it.
Yeah.
When we move to the left, we are reducing. Okay. So a normal functioning human being has euthymic mood or normal moods. But when we are getting excited, we are raising arousal to the right side of the number line.
Okay.
So we may hit about 5 or 10. So you realize that 5 or 10, adding that amount of energy to your normal mood, you can imagine where the person is going to be. You are way over, you are in the airplane, you are everywhere. You're everywhere. You are very excited, you are hyper aroused. And then when we move to the other side, that is taken from the normal mood as 0, we are now deducting, we are removing arousal from you. So you get to that point, let's say -10, you realize that you don't have energy to do anything. So in essence, a manic episode is going to be somebody who is at a +10 in addition to the euthymic mood.
Right.
And then the depressive episode will be somebody who is headed towards -10 of the same thing. Now,
So
yeah.
if I get you well, so the manic mode means very high,
Very
energy,
high,
extreme-
elated, man,
right?
all over the place, yeah.
And then the depressive is somebody who doesn't have energy
Energy
at
to
all.
do anything
they don't
at
want
all.
to do
Yeah,
anything that
yeah,
they have
yeah,
to. Okay,
yeah,
all
yeah.
right, good.
Yeah.
So what does that look like typically, or in real life?
Okay, in real life,
Maybe if you can give examples.
okay,
Yeah.
so let's see. What is the best example I can give for this one? Right. So I came here playing a reggae song, so let me just dwell on the reggae guys a bit. Okay.
Okay.
So you enter say you enter a live reggae performance and you see a Rasta man screaming, "Are you irate?" And then they are jumping all over the place. You know that this is not normal. They may have some referee somewhere, and then something is influencing them. Yeah, so that is a typical example of an elated mood. Somebody who
It
is
doesn't mean those people are by.
no, not at all, not at all. I'm just explaining the elated
Okay,
mood,
right.
yeah, how it can be elated, right?
Okay.
And then you enter a hospital setting, and then see a pregnant woman just lost a child, and then everybody seems to be okay doing their own thing. But you look at this one person and you realize that the person's mood is different from everybody else. So that is going to be a very sad, sober mood. Not to say that it is depression. I'm just trying to put the mood into pictures that will give you a certain idea of it. Now imagine these 2 episodes or these 2 pictures I have painted with a person who lost their child and is sad. That is going to last for 2 weeks continuous. The person is going to remain the way she is for 2 weeks continuous. And with the first example, the elated mood, the person is going to stay in that state for close to 7 days or 4 days for bipolar 2 and then 7 days for bipolar 1. Constant energy. Yes. So that is what the manic episode would look like for a bipolar 1. Like that for 7 days. And then for the hypomania, like that for 4 days. And so yeah, it's a big deal.
Can someone experience both of them at the same time?
Yes, you can. So both of them, as in the depressive phase and the manic phase.
Yes,
Yes.
you're down.
So in bipolar 2,
because that's why people say mood swings.
mood swings, yeah,
Because you can see somebody up there, and then the next minute they are down. So can somebody be there?
yeah, you can. And in both 1, 2, and 3, it is there. Okay, but bipolar 1, as part of the criteria, you may or may not experience a depressive phase. Now, I wanted to put it in brain chemistry, right? Bring the brain into the picture a bit. We have neurotransmitters that excite us. The dopamines and the serotonins, they raise our mood. Now, if your mood is raised to a certain level, it doesn't fall back to normal all the time. There are moments it falls below the normal for a bit before coming back to normal, depending on how high you have gone.
Right.
Okay. So, if you have been elated for maybe 7 days straight and you are coming down, there's a possibility of you hitting lower than the euthymic mood before coming back to normal. Now, it doesn't happen because you were there for 7 days. You coming back to the normal may not be a day's thing. So you hear bipolar patients saying that, yeah, we also experience this depressive phase, and it is also very vivid.
Right.
So in those moments, they have low energy. They can't do anything at all. In the hypomanic phase or the bipolar 2, we look at some. It can alternate. So you can go for maybe 4 days of high moods, and then you go down for about 2 weeks of low moods, and then you come back again to the high moods and go back. Now, when you go to cyclothymia, which is the third one, that one does with alternating between the two. Yeah, alternating between the two. Now, in the cyclothymic, you may not have 4 or 3 symptoms as mentioned earlier. You may have just 2. So it doesn't meet the criteria for 1 and 2, but you are getting the energy bursts and you are getting the lows as well. So you are getting like higher highs, you are getting lower lows. So sometimes you are so excited, you can work with a lot of energy. Then after 2 weeks, you feel like you don't have any energy to work. It may look like normal life, but you keep alternating between those circles, and it becomes a deviation from the norm and what we know normal life to be. Of course, we may have burnout and stress here and there, but that one is very profound. You can tell yourself that, no, this is not stress, this is not burnout. This is just me experiencing this. And that one lasts, the diagnostic criteria say you have to be in that state for about 2 years if you're an adult. And it has to be consistent for a year if you're a child. Yeah, so it's not easy diagnosing, and it's not easy living with that experience as well. So
we'll talk more about how it even comes about and all of that shortly. But let me just announce the phone lines in case anybody's listening to us and they want to join the conversation. So if you just tune in, this is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM. This morning we're having a conversation on understanding bipolar disorder. A lot of people say they are bipolar and all of that. Stan, you're going to tell me whether, I mean, it is okay to loosely use that expression to say that you are bipolar, because people say that I'm bipolar, I'm this and that. So we'll talk about that shortly. But if you're listening to us, you can join a conversation on our social media platforms. We're on Facebook at ZFMGH and on YouTube at Z Multimedia. Please feel free to drop a comment there, and I'll read them for you. And Stan will respond to the questions, and also we'll share the comments as well. We are also on WhatsApp, so you can send us a WhatsApp on 0544321019, 0544321019. Send me a WhatsApp, send me your questions. You can send a text or a voice note. For a voice note, I'll play for you. For the text, I'll read them for you. I'm happy to do that for you. And then Stan will respond to the ones that he has to respond to before we go on. So please feel free to engage us. I'm happy to do you the honors this morning. Stan, let's continue the conversation. So what are some of the early warning signs that people often overlook?
Early warning signs would be, I'd say the normal stresses of life, right? So, of course, bipolar is not tied to one cause. The way we have Plasmodium bacteria causing malaria, we don't have anything like that for mental health sicknesses. So, it's just a combination of several factors. We have the biologicals, we have the social, the psychological, the environmental, and all those things. But chiefly, trauma. Trauma is one. Trauma has been said to have a way of rewiring the brain. Okay. So when we talk about bipolar disorder, the brain area that is compromised is the limbic system, the part of the body responsible for emotion regulation, the limbic system. So research has shown that in the brains of people with bipolar disorder, the amygdala and the hippocampus have some extensions in there. There are some swellings in those places as well. Yeah. And so that predisposes somebody to emotional dysregulation, hence bipolar disorder. So it will be hard to say I am picking one or two things to be the causes of bipolar disorder, because research has mentioned biological factors, and I cannot go and say I am looking at people's heads and then I'm looking in their brains to see who is going to be susceptible and then who is not going to be. But lifestyle also affects it. For example, somebody may have a very serious heartbreak and then go bipolar. Somebody may have a very big lottery win and then circuits may go off and then he is entering bipolar. So lifestyle plays a major role. And then
lifestyle, what kinds of lifestyle?
Yes, good, beautiful. This one too just came in. People who are drug users, like people who like to use the cocaine, the stimulant drugs, and all those things. Yeah. Now, one thing I didn't mention earlier was in the context of coming to know somebody being bipolar, either 1, 2, or 3, we do something called removing the presence of any substance use. So it shouldn't be a substance-induced condition. So whatever the person is experiencing shouldn't be because of the substance he or she is taking. Okay. That is ruled out. And then it shouldn't be because of any medical condition as well. So those are part of the criteria for arriving at the diagnosis for bipolar. So the elated mood should not be because you were using cocaine or any stimulant drug. The depressed mood shouldn't be because you are using antidepressants or anything like that. Yeah. So yeah, back to the causes. Somebody who is living a wild life using the balloons, and the cocaine, and all those things, yes, it has a possibility of getting your mind to enjoy the manic phases more. So there may be a point that you may go off. And from what I have read and seen is that those who do those abusing of drugs either end up with bipolar or they end up with epilepsy, like seizures. Those epileptic seizures, yeah. So, for example, rapper Lil Wayne, we're told was abusing codeine, right? And then we are told that he had a lot of epileptic seizures in the process as well. So, yeah, when you are used to abusing drugs, there are people who use drugs in moderation, and there are people who use drugs very hard. There are people who like to do a combination of the two. I don't know what. Okay, well, I can have a fair idea because the more you are pumping the substances into your head, the more you are feeling high in there. And that element of grandiosity comes inside a place. So somebody who is using cocaine may feel like he is the baron of the cartel that produces the cocaine. And so in his mind, he's living on a different level from anybody else. And so they want to stay in that phase for long. Now the side effect or the main effect is that the brain is programmed to live in a certain threshold. So if you're using the number line example, the brain has to be at zero at all times so that it can have its highs and lows. But if you are introducing drugs into the picture, the brain is now going to live at 70.
You're influencing the brain.
Now be at a higher levels. Frequency, yes. So if that is not sustained, you begin to feel down and low.
Even at your
at
zero.
your normal, yes. Because now you are used to being at 70. Being at a zero feels like a low to you.
Is that why people get addicted to drugs?
That is why people get addicted to drugs. That is one of the major reasons why people get addicted. So because I have pushed my brain to start processing things from this level, if I bring it back, my body begins to call for that. So that's where the tolerance and then the withdrawal symptoms begin to also manifest. But yes, drug have a way of having that difficult lifestyle, that crazy lifestyle, can
Really
predispose. It's crazy. So those of us listening who are in that habit, because I can't fathom. Like ever since I started doing brain physiology and learning about the brain, that is one thing that I find very fascinating. That if you keep your brain functioning at a level it wasn't programmed to function, you will need to sustain it throughout your life. And if you're unable to sustain it, it comes with so many challenges. One of which is going to be bipolar disorder. Of course, family systems, stress. When we talk about stress, we are looking at financial stress,
Right.
and all the stress that we encounter in Ghana, depending on your coping mechanisms as well. If you have a healthy support system, you'll be able to thrive. If you don't have a healthy support system, it can predispose you to having a mental health disorder and then bipolar disorder and by extension. So
Right. So is this something you are born with or you develop over time?
okay, so that is the genetic side, going deeper into it. So nobody is born with bipolar disorder, but research has shown that there is a tendency or there's a higher potential for you to gain or to receive or to inherit, if you like, bipolar disorder if a relative has it.
That's it.
So there's a 10% chance of being bipolar if a relative is bipolar. 10%. Now I saw twin studies and I saw some statistics in there. So amongst identical twins, I think it's as high as 72%.
Wow.
Yes, of getting
The
and
chances.
of if one twin is bipolar, the second person has a 72% chance of getting bipolar as well.
That is so. For instance, when they are adults or when they are young, or
Depend-
when they are
at-
born, which is which?
At any time when they grow up. So
Okay,
let's say we are twins,
Yeah.
but we are living in two different places,
Then they
and then you have bipolar. You don't have bipolar, like exemplify. So you have
No,
bipolar.
you do.
I mean,
You do.
So yeah, so
one
let's say
person has,
one person
yeah,
has,
right.
right, and then the other person may have has 72% chance of also getting.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that is what the twin studies have shown.
Is it when they live together or when they are different places?
Not necessarily. They can be in different places. That is
and
twin
it's-
studies, yes.
Wow.
So most of the twin studies are done with twins who are living in separate places, so that they want to see if their genetics are going to say something important about that which they are looking for.
I see.
So they put them in two different places, two different environments, and if the same outcome is resulting, then they can confirm and say, indeed, in twins, this is what we are finding amongst them. In fraternal twins, they found 14% chances of getting the bipolar gene, if there is anything like the bipolar gene. But you can be bipolar if your fraternal twin you have 14% chance of also getting. But if you are in a family like mine and nobody has bipolar disorder, then it means that you have to go and look for your own pathways of getting it. So that is what we just mentioned, living the crazy lifestyle and then
The
doing
stress
illicit
and
drugs and
trauma and all
stress.
that sort of
Exactly.
things.
Yeah.
I see. All right. Let's touch on some other things. Now, I know that it has effects
Yes.
on relationships and work. How does it affect you? How does bipolar affect how people relate with each other and also the kind of work that they do? Yeah.
Okay, so even before I come to the work, there is something I wanted to mention. I think I promised myself that if I'm given the opportunity, I'll touch on it.
Okay.
Because in our media spaces, we see a lot of that. And then it's a subtle effect of bipolar. So in a manic phase of bipolar, so many things happen. I mentioned the impulsivity, the action, your too much energy to do so many things, activity, yes. There is something we call hypersexuality. Okay, so hypersexuality happens to be a transient or a subtle feature of bipolar disorder. And research has also captured it. So I think it has become a topical issue in circles, in mental health circles. And so research has been done into it. And I would like to bring to bear some of the findings.
Sure.
So
go
I
ahead.
make them some points on it.
Right.
So according to Kopekina et al. 2016, in the Journal of Affective Disorder, it says that increased incidence of risky sexual behavior in bipolar disorders during manic episodes were seen. And these were compared to other psychiatric diagnoses. So it's like we are comparing bipolar patients versus other mental health patients.
Right.
And it was evident that the hypersexuality was more seen in bipolar patients.
I
Yes.
see.
And it says that hypersexuality in manic episodes and hypersexuality in depressive episodes affected partners' sexual satisfaction negatively. It also persisted into other episodes or other situations. So bipolar, the hypersexuality affects both the manic side and the depressive side as well. Another study done in UK, this was one that bust my brains a lot. Okay, so it bust my brains a lot because they recruited 1,170 participants who were living with bipolar disorder and experienced hypersexual behavior. So they're able to get 1,170 people living with bipolar and were having hypersexual tendencies. Then they also got 3,615 participants with bipolar disorder, but they were not experiencing any hypersexual stuff like that.
Right.
So all the assessments were done, and I think they dwelled more on the other population who didn't show any, were silent on their hypersexual tendencies. Now the key findings said over 54% of those living with bipolar have experienced more than 8 periods of hypersexuality. So these are the people who will not call themselves people who are hypersexual, but in the assessment it was seen that 54% of them were having that tendency.
Right.
2/3 of them saying the period lasted for more than a month. Respondents were mostly sexually active during those periods, with 69% saying they had tried to seduce somebody. The other one I want to mention is Krog et al. 2023. They did a qualitative study, and then they were exploring sexuality and bipolar disorder. And they got 5 themes: sexual drive and impulses, sexual behavior, thoughts and feelings related to sexual issues, intimate relationship, and sexuality and identity. The study also found that hypersexuality was significantly elevated in adolescents with bipolar depression compared to unipolar depression. So the point I was making earlier is that even in the depressive episodes, that hypersexuality still manifests.
I see.
Now you, in a depressive phase, you are supposed to have what we call anhedonia. So you are unable to develop pleasure, and you lose pleasure in the things you normally love doing.
Yes, exactly. Because I'm curious as to
Yeah.
why the person would not be willing. I mean, would not have energy to do any work.
Yes.
But when it comes to
Sexual
sexual stuff, they would want to.
So this is like the second study confirming hypersexuality, even in a depressive episode.
Right.
Yeah. And that is how crazy it can get. That is how sad it can be. So in our Ghanaian circles, we are used to seeing people all over the social media. I don't want to mention names, right? But there are some prominent people who come online from time to time, and then they come and say all manner of things. Yeah. And then people go like, oh, this is bodaminitie. Like they are trying to say they are not well, but they are just covering up for other things. But that is not the case. The reason why this was of necessity to me was because it was just to get the Ghanaian population to know that when somebody steps out and is giving accounts of sexual experiences and mentioning people they've had sex with and all those things, it's not because they want to do it. It's because they are in that elated mood.
Okay.
And there's so much they want to do, and there is no coordination. And like I said, the limbic system, which is responsible for emotional regulation, is compromised in those manic episodes. The prefrontal cortex is not able to do anything when it comes to inhibiting or putting a stop on them. Nothing of that sort can be done by the brain. So it's beyond the person who is talking. The person is talking because the flight of ideas side, then the person has to make sure I see everything on my mind before I can get some comfort. And so that is where they find themselves. So they come online, they feel like they are doing their best. Of course, to them, everything they do is in the best interest of society, is in their best interest. But it takes the other person to look at them and say, no, this is not right, this is not wrong. They cannot see it in those states, in those moments, yes. So it goes a long way to affect a lot of things about the person. Just to answer that question, in terms of work, you may go to work with a lot of energy, right? You are doing so many things at the same time. To you, you are working. But somebody will sit back and say, I think you should slow down. Now, when you tell somebody living with bipolar to slow down, it's like you are insulting them.
Yeah.
So they get very offensive and they get very defensive. Because to them, everything is fine. So why are you telling me otherwise? And so they may be very angry and they may come at you in a certain way that will not be meaningful or you will not appreciate. So that is one. The next thing too, when it comes to your interpersonal circles, when it comes to interpersonal relationships, because of your manic phase, you are not able to relate well with family and friends. And the tendency of you also hurting yourself in those moments where you would have those flight of ideas, you would want to do things that hasn't been done before. A story is told of a guy who jumped off the San Francisco bridge in one of the manic episodes. He just jumped into the water, and then I think he survived. So he survived. So he wrote a book afterwards on his experience with this. So imagine you are working, you are gainfully employed, and then your episode comes up. Say you are a COO or a CEO, and then the manic episode sets in, and then you lose your life. That is running the company down to some extent, causing financial loss to your company and all those things. Family would mourn, grieve if you are the breadwinner, and so on and so forth. Also, if you get the diagnosis in your early adult life, and you are supposed to be the hope of the family, you store the hopes of the family. That's and true. Then so many situations arise from there. But as it deals with work, they, one way or the other, have a lot of energy to work. So when the depressive episode sets in, that is when they withdraw from work, and that is when productivity is low. But I'm not saying it will be best, or it's nice to have hypomanic people around, especially when you get into your deadline, because they won't rest. They will speed you up. They give you that best of energy, and that may be good to an extent. It may be good for the company, but to the person, you would, if you care about the person, you'd want to get the person to slow down. I
see our time is almost up, but there are quite a number of things to discuss. But please, if you're listening to us, send us your comments and your questions. 0544 321019 0544 321019. Send us a WhatsApp, and we would also read your messages for you. Now, some people tend to spiritualize it.
Oh yes,
here in Ghana, mental health is often spiritualized. How does that affect people?
It hurts people a lot because on a normal day, a bipolar diagnosis, whether 1, 2, or 3, is very serious. And we say if it is detected early, you are able to have the right interventions in place, and then you can help the person to at least get some medication, continue with therapy as soon as possible. But in our case, or in our circles, when we are taking the person to the other side of things, right, we want to go to the prayer camps. We want to pray for the person with days on end. And now let's see, for example, a typical person is, let's say a person has gone 4 days without sleep, and the person is very active and hyper in the manic episode manifesting, and then you take the person to a prayer camp, and the person is acting out. You may think the person is possessed. You may think the person is having a demon in him also, and then the demon is manifesting or something like that. That is how we will see it in the spiritual lens. You may pray and pray and pray and pray and pray. The person is not manifesting any demon, so no demon is going to result.
That's true.
And then when you finish, you realize that you'd have wasted a week or two of the person's life, when the person could have been sent to the psychiatric facility and given some medications to calm down, and the person would have done therapy, and the person would have been better off than they were sent there. Again, with a spiritual lens, as part of who we are. Yes, we are Ghanaians, we are spiritual people, we are, we believe in the deity and all those things. So the best suggestion that we give is, if you want to pray about it, but seek the basic help first.
Right.
So if the person is manifesting, take the person to the psychiatric hospital, because bipolar 1, you need to be hospitalized. Give the person the shot, stabilize the person, and if you want to go to the prayer camp immediately, that is fine. At least you've done the first precautionary measure, and that will help in the long run.
Right. In fact, prayers actually work. You don't necessarily, the person doesn't necessarily have to be there for you to pray for them to get healed. And so you can take the person to the hospital, seek professional help, and then you can still pray. Exactly. All right. Let's wrap up. Maybe finally. So what treatment options are available for people?
So treatment options, as I just mentioned, bipolar 1 is quite extreme. So you will need some medication. One medication that has been tried and tested and has showed that they call it a golden standard of treatment is lithium carbonate. So lithium carbonate is given to the person who is manifesting, and then you can continue with valproate and then lamotrigine. These are medications that I think the psychiatric board will appreciate more. Now, when a person is stable, we can continue with psychotherapy, where we can do cognitive behavioral therapy. We can do psychoeducation to educate the people about the condition they are dealing with, and so on and so forth. Another thing is, I wanted to mention this thing has escaped me, but no problem. So this is okay. Let's come back. Bipolar is difficult to treat. Okay, because of the ability to go from the manic phase to the depressive phase. So there are some medications you may want to give to somebody who is depressed or somebody who's going through a depressive episode, but you will not want to give that medication to somebody who is going through a bipolar phase, because if you're able to raise the person from the depressive state to the euthemic state, the person has a possibility or the potential to jump into the manic phase as well. So bringing the person to normal is not enough.
Right.
So instead of using antidepressants to raise their moods, we use antipsychotic medications. So we borrow medications from those who are battling with schizophrenia and all those things. These are some of the medications we use to treat bipolar. So in bipolar treatment, it's like a salad, a mix from everywhere. There are atypical psychotics. There are atypical antipsychotics. There are antidepressants. There are mood stabilizers and all of this. And then we complement them with psychotherapy, because if the person is just taking a medication, there's a possibility of the person going back to depression or to mania. So when we complement the two, it is shown, research has shown that is the best help we can give anybody.
Okay, Stan, thank you very much for your time this morning. Maybe one key message for our listeners, if anybody wants to take anything away, what would you say to them?
When you are struggling, especially thinking too much, heavily stressed, feeling traumatized, take a trip to the hospital, ask for a psychologist unit, and have a conversation with them. This may save you a full-blown bipolar or any mental health pathology in the future, because that is how it starts. It starts small. So when you are overwhelmed and you are feeling lost, just take a trip to the psychologist, have a conversation. Now with NHIS, it's free in the hospitals, so you can take a trip there, and then everything will be fine.
Thank you very much, Stan, for coming this morning. Thanks for sharing with us. We are really grateful. I think it's been a very good conversation, and I'm sure our listeners have picked quite a number of things. But thank you once again.
Thank you.
Hopefully we get to have other conversations in the coming days. All right, and thanks so much to you also for listening right from 6:15 till now. This is how we wrap up today on the Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM with me, Nitrebi Hammond. We're back again on Monday for some more interesting conversations. But if you missed any part of the conversation on bipolar, we're going to put that on our YouTube page at Z Multimedia. You can visit and play back just to understand exactly what it means, so that when you begin to see symptoms like that, whether in you or other people closer to you, you are able to detect, and then maybe you advise accordingly. And so thank you very much. My name is Nitrebi Hammond. I'll see you on Monday.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. And also do follow us on all our socials. On TikTok at Z Multimedia, LinkedIn at Z Multimedia, YouTube at ZTV, IDX, and Facebook at ZFMGH.